Are you considering adding virtual events to your growth or marketing strategy? Or maybe you're reconsidering it, right? And you have to pitch it to your team, your higher ups, your sponsors, etc. They're like, the pandemic is over. We don't need virtual events. Well, I'm here to tell you that virtual events existed before the pandemic, existed during the pandemic, and will be existing forever and ever beyond the pandemic. Things such as remote work, flexible workspace, people making geographical moves, and so much more have impacted the need, the interest, and demand for virtual events. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about some reasons and some benefits that there are for producing virtual events for yourself or your organization or your clients. I'm Georgie from GSD Solutions, and let's dive in. The very first reason you want to produce virtual events is that it has a high ROI, so high return on investment. In comparison to in-person events, that could be very costly, from securing a venue to having to fly out speakers, purchasing trinkets and widgets that you need to give away or use during the live event, additional AV setups and things of that nature, as compared to a virtual event where you just only may need that high quality setup for one person or a few speakers. Virtual event solution tools, softwares are usually less costly than in-person event setups and tools, right? A venue can run you very quickly, $500, $600, $700, and that's on a low end, and upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars on a high end. Whereas you can do that same type of event virtually for a couple $100 or maybe a couple $1,000 if you're doing an event that includes hundreds of thousands of people participating. So you're going to get a high ROI. The next thing is low setup costs. So depending on the type of event that you're doing, let's say, for example, you're doing a live stream. A live stream can go to any social media platform and can be joined by thousands and hundreds of thousands of participants. And you could use a tool such as StreamYard that could run you maybe $25 to $50, $60 a month, depending on the account type that you have. And you could live stream to multiple platforms at the same exact time. So as compared to doing an in-person event where you're limited by the capacity of people that can fit into that space in that room, then your setup costs are going to be astronomically more than, $25 to $60 for that setup in comparison to a virtual event. Next, building community. Right? So if you are a conference or you have an event series or you do a lot of work in person, well, having virtual events can continuously build that community for the interim. Let's say you have an annual event or a quarterly event. What happens to your community in between? Are they just using chat inside of your community platform? Well, having a virtual event can allow them to see each other face to face, have deeper conversations, do things like networking, do a Q&A with you and ask me anything, or you could just give them an educational workshop, again, with lower setup costs than if you were to do that same experience in person, and you could have a wider reach. So that brings me to my next point, accessibility, right? I'm pretty sure this is not the first, second, or 20th time you've heard this term. And it's not just a term, it's a real thing. Accessibility impacts people from various abilities that may be physical or non-physical, mental, that we may not see, life circumstances such as having family, children, or pets, financial difficulties where they may not be able to fly in and stay at a hotel while participating in your event. And so when you do a virtual event, now you open it up to being more accessible for people all around the world for whatever reason they may have for not being able to or not wanting to participate in the in-person version of that event. I've seen virtual events where you could even amp up the accessibility, such as having interpreters on the platform that give real-time simultaneous interpretation. You could also have sign language interpretation. You can do things like having the transcript rewritten. People have control over the volume for how they can hear the event. They could then potentially rewatch the sessions if they need a slower pace to consume the content. So there's so many ways that your event can be more accessible if you do it in a virtual space. Another way that impacts, right? So applying to accessibility then also impacts convenience. As I mentioned, folks, with inflation skyrocketing, might I add, right? Expenses are going up. if your event is in a place like New York City or Atlanta or Texas, where it's a hot spot that might be double the price during that event season, having a hybrid or virtual component will allow folks that may not be able to take the time off from work or have childcare or dependent care available, or maybe they fell ill right before the event and they still want to participate. They can still view and interact, but they can't travel and be able to come to your event in person. So think about these things, and these are definitely solid reasons why you should continue doing virtual events. So I'm going to tell you two more. Content generation. So one of the benefits and things I love about virtual events is that it doesn't stop there, right? You could take that virtual, let's say you had a 30-minute panel, a 30-minute conversation. You could chop it up into 31-minute reels, right? Not every part of it is going to be as impactful. You can create a short YouTube video recap from it. You could create social media sound bites with things that were very impactful that were said during the session. You can transcribe those sessions and then create captions or create blog posts from those sessions. You could even strip the audio from those sessions and then put it on a podcast, right? So I just talked about YouTube videos, Instagram or TikTok reels, social media graphic quotes and memes, blog posts, or even doing a podcast. So that's already 5 different solutions that you can do from the one piece of content, one segment of your virtual event. So that's really great for content generation. And we know that content creation is not going anywhere. It's being actually more amplified and more required in these days. And so having a virtual hybrid session or content that you're recording helps with that content generation. And then lastly, your reach, right? When you do a virtual event, you are no longer stuck to the bounds of physical location. We've done events that have had folks from dozens of countries at a time, impacting all over the world. You could have a virtual event in New York City, and people from Australia, California, Canada, all sorts of different states, countries, cities, territories can come and participate in your event. So these are some of the reasons that you should be aware of, as well as share with your team, share with your colleagues of the importance of doing virtual events, right? Virtual events are not going anywhere. Neither is remote work. So you want to make sure that your events are flexible, accessible, convenient, and you can reap the benefits such as low setup costs, high ROI, expanded reach, and building, as well as engaging with your community. If you learned something or got some value from this video, go ahead and please like this video, subscribe to our channel. And if you need support, right? If you need an event tech support team, reach out to us. GSD Solutions, that's what we specialize in. We love supporting event producers and making sure that all their tech needs are being met for their virtual, hybrid, or in-person events. So our links are down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.